Alright guys, Scrappy here and I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Big rumours emerging last night that despite a disastrous match last weekend for Los Angeles Thieves against Toronto, they will still be running it back with that same team. Scrap, aBeZy, HyDra and Kenny will be the four-man roster according to talk for next weekend's game. And guess who that against? It's the reigning world champions OpTic Texas, the team that Kenny had a similar stint for last year. On that team was dropped. The rest is history since then. OpTic, of course, arguably still the best team in this game right now. It's going to be a critical couple of weekends, but it seems like Thieves are deciding to give Kenny at least the major, and then decisions might potentially be made. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. We are going to start here because Meltdown is in the game now. This is the classic BO2 map, and just everything about it is somehow worse in the new game. I don't really know how this is really a thing, but we've seen this for many years now in COD, and it's not just Meltdown exclusive, but I just thought it was a pretty good side-by-side. This screenshot at the bottom here is from 2012, right? Black Ops 2 came out near enough 14, 15 years ago at this point. That's what it looked like back then. The colours, the detailing on the map, even the MSMC was way better back then, right? The XMC in this game, okay, or like the MPC in this game, it was the XMC in Black Ops 3, whatever. The iron sights, they don't hit the same as they used to. But even the detailing on this like tower in the background, I don't know, you can go back to all these classic CODs. Go back to Black Ops 1, that was literally 16 years ago. That game came out. It still looks better than the slop they're pumping out today. And I think BO7 is a pretty good game. But, you know, it looks like I'm playing COD Mobile here, right? It's just, I don't know, there's something about it. You would think that 15 years on, people always talked about back in the day that now the graphics, the development, oh wow, the graphics on this new game are crazy. And this was on, you know, the Xbox 360 and the PS3, right? Whereas here we are on these absolutely cranked up PCs and, you know, this is what we get. So, like, at the end of the day, it's an interesting comparison. What is particularly relevant competitively is whether it's going to be played or not, because Meltdown is a classic search and destroy map, famously the scene of the final ever map of the World Championship that season, but it's currently not getting played on CMG. So Fringe is getting some play, but there's a bug somehow that's diffusing players become invincible. So that's been a problem. But Meltdown is the most vetoed map on CMG right now. And now that may just be because it's brand new, but people are requesting it to be gone. So they've actually removed Meltdown from the pool for now. So whether that changes, we'll see. Of course, they're just responding to the feedback of their own community. In my opinion, if the league wants to, they could just say, all right, Meltdown's in, we're going to play it for a stage and see how it goes. I think that probably would be the right thing to do. The players will, well, they used to decide. Now it seems the league decides. You're bringing a map like Meltdown back in. I don't think there's an issue with the league saying, all right, you guys are just going to play it for a stage. We'll see how it gets on. And then based on the decisions from that, then we can see where we go for Major 3 and beyond. But obviously in a couple of weeks' time after Major 1, a couple of more weeks to prep what could be a good idea and figure out what's going to happen after Major 1 in Dallas. And there's plenty to discuss about the teams that might be turning up there or changing after the fact as well. Now, of course, challenges, still a key talking point at the moment. Stallions Red, interestingly enough, some questions on whether that team is going to stay the same, whether Stallions Red are going to blow it up or something, because they didn't have the best cut performance. And actually, if they go to the Major and every single other team makes the Major with the current points and everything, they would only be the 32nd seed and would place, or they would face as a result, the #1 seed in the third round of winners. Unlikely to happen, but just worthy of keeping in mind that Stallions Red not especially well placed. We did get a couple of interesting scrims. Omit Brooklyn, of course, that being a Lurqxx team versus the Huntsman. So Huntsman still with Neum in the team. Very crucial to keep in mind today. Neum could be playing for the Ravens right now, but the option for Thieves came on the table. Thieves wanted to get an option on his services. That's what they've gone on to do. So Ravens got Exceed instead. It's worked out for them well so far, but, you know, we'll give it a few weeks and we'll see how that transpires at the Major. Neum, though, still part of the Huntsman. They're still looking pretty good. These were just some of the screenshots from this pretty competitive series overall. Lurqxx, of course, now on FaZe, and it's interesting that Neum might be looking on the other side and thinking, well, in another world, maybe Lurqxx, you know, could have been on Thieves instead, but that's not how it's working out as it stands. Maybe there's still an option there in the future. It's not completely impossible this happens. If FaZe don't want him, maybe, or they don't need him, right? They obviously want him, but if they don't need him, there's a possibility for some sort of loan. We'll see what Zuma has to say on that later on today. Bush Gaming, they played Brooklyn as well, and well, Capstore had some great moments in this. I mean, this screenshot's pretty wild. A Lurqxx with 7,700 score, 60 limbs here in a 252-49 on the black card. Not all the maps were that close. In fact, the next map on the Colossus was, they just got destroyed home in Brooklyn. Cap's team, Fire goes 37 in 14. So exciting to see. Of course, Bush need a big week because they're currently 2-2 in the Elite. They need to get a win on Wednesday, I guess tomorrow. I think they play tomorrow anyway. They need to get that win to make sure they make it to the playoffs. So they've got to lock in this week, and well, we'll see if that works out in their favour. We also have a little bit of further talk on Neum and what's been happening, because we saw a bit of drama with what Sib had to say on the scrim that they played against them and saying that they were just getting slammed. From Hex's vlog, you can see that Neum was definitely meant to join the Ravens, and as far as we understand, they trialled both Neum and Exceed, and they were going to go with Neum. That was the decision they were planning to make, but then the opportunity came in for the Thieves situation, and as we know, that's what's happened in recent days, because Sib made that comment about how they weren't getting any points with Neum and they were getting slammed. So this was Neum playing on Slash's account, right? So this is a recent scrim with Craze, Lurqxx, Nero with Slash, but that being, well, Neum in this case. They also played with Exceed in a similar spot, and Sib was like, these guys sucked with Neum. I don't know what they were doing bringing him in instead. And there was a few arguments as to, okay, why was Sib saying this? Now, Sib decides to bring the receipts. He puts this screenshot up of them getting near enough 50-point clubbed on the exposure. But actually, Zinni said of this scrim that apparently this was the scrim where Neum had just been made aware that there was interest from Thieves. Craze was aware of it as well, so they were a little bit checked out. There's also another argument that maybe Sib was making these comments to kind of downplay Neum's ability so that actually Thieves will stick with their roster and they're an easy target, potentially. But, you know, I don't know. A team that they have could still maybe turn it around, but it does feel like Thieves are somewhat mentally compromised right now, certainly based on that scrap screenshot from their result against Toronto the other day. But Sib shows that, yeah, it's not like they were frying, but Neum made his comments to say, well, almost implying, look, yeah, maybe this scrim didn't go to plan, but the other ones certainly were very promising, and excited to see Neum in the league at some point. I think he will be in the league at some point. Whether it is with Thieves is still a big question. So, like, let's talk about it. This is pretty wild. I know that this is obviously a flipped image, but this is just looking back at last year when OpTic were having that particularly difficult stint, and the similarities between, well, Shotzzy in the top left in this case, we got Scrap in the top left in this case, Kenny in the same spot here, which is why it's flipped so that it kind of mirrors nicely. Kenny also struggling, the empty chair in the bottom left. It was the same with Dashy in this case, who disappeared, and then Pred looking kind of similar to HyDra. So anyway, these months later, a similar kind of story emerging. It's obviously got to be difficult for Kenny right now. Formal said he feels kind of bad for him, given all the pressure on him and the spotlight and all this. But look, this is what you sign up for at the end of the day as a professional player. It doesn't feel that long ago that Kenny tweeted this out, right? This is on February 2025 after the Madrid event, when JCap and the guys had said, you know, Kenny's not looking so great. The good outweighs the bad. Obviously, we know what happened shortly after that OpTic went on the 0-18 run, and Kenny said effing noted, right? So still a tweet that lives kind of rent-free. We'll see if there's any chance for these guys to turn it around, but, you know, Octane thinks it's done, right? Octane, after this series, was watching the play, and it's not all about Kenny. I think you might argue the team is compromised. Kenny's the obvious man to replace. You do it, and then you have a bit of a reset and you try and figure other things out. I think there are also major questions, though, on how aBeZy and HyDra are approaching the game. Not going to downplay the fact that Kenny's getting slammed. Yes, Kenny's getting slammed, obviously. And dropping Kenny is absolutely justifiable as it stands. However, if you drop Kenny, you know, who do you bring in? First of all, Neum, it looks like, is the guy that they're looking at. He's an AR, he holds an iron, he shoots pretty straight, he would bring you more kills on the map. Sure, they probably get a bit better right now if they brought in Neum. But is that enough, right? Are they going to be winning events with Neum? I think there's, you know, you might wonder, what if they successfully got Celium, who was the man that they wanted? would they have been, how good would they be with Cellium right now? In theory, Scrap, Cell, aBeZy, and HyDra would be like an insane superstar god squad. But I could also see that, well, they probably would be better. I'd be surprised if they weren't. The aBeZy, HyDra, SMG question, and also who's playing the objective, now there's no Ghosty and Envoy, is still a question they've got to answer, right? So, look, getting rid of Kenny, totally justifiable. Octane says you should just do it, bring in Neum, get a few more kills on the map, and then try and go from there, have a bit of a mental reset, because looks like Scrap needs that right now, with his facial expressions over the last couple of days. But I don't think it's quite as clear cut as that. If it was as simple as, everyone else was looking unbelievable and Kenny was in the blender literally every single map no matter what, and that was the only difference with Thieves getting close or winning, then I think it would be easier to see. Do they need a reset? You can very much argue it, but it doesn't appear that they're going down that route yet. So CDL highlights this, according to sources, and Attach actually backed this up. I'll share the clip in a second, and the pictures here didn't load for some reason, but effectively it was a picture of Neum and a picture of Kenny that were meant to be on this tweet. But he says, sources, I'm hearing Thieves currently have no plans to sub Neum in for Kenny. So we understand that Thieves have effectively 2-3 weeks, probably another 3 and a little bit weeks to decide whether they want Neum. That's what Zinni said, that after Major 1, they have an option to get him, and if they don't, then he becomes a Huntsman player again and a total free agent. They could well do that, but the decision, it seems, is not to do it quite yet. So they will stick to the same team. They're going to give it another week of practice. I think the timing of this practice and the matches, though, for Thieves is just not ideal at all. They played one game last weekend against Toronto. They now have a week off. Next weekend, they play one game again against OpTic. So, that's really all they've got to go on. Let me share the attached clip, and then we'll get back to the talking points.
Got the left, good play.
Hey, what's the ball guy? Did we kill him? Yo, stun on your steps, stun on your steps. You ain't kill him?
Guy on the steps. Yo, the steps are going to, Nate's at the back point. Nate's back B.
Okay.
Back B, back
Oh
B.
shit, big win.
One shot.
GG's.
Ah!
That's a mercy roll. We like that.
Oh, nice job. That's it.
Who's LAT picking up for Kenny? LAT doesn't seem to be changing.
Yep.
It does not look like LAT will be making a change.
I was fucking 1 sec.
Let's see when these guys are ready.
Yeah, they.
And then the weekend after that, they have 2 more games. They play, I think, Boston and Ravens. So very winnable games in the final weekends. But they might need to win them because they're currently 2-2 with a 6-7 map count. And if they lose to OpTic, they'll be 2-3 with a worse map count than that. They're looking a bit precarious for the winners bracket at that point for the major. So then they would absolutely need to beat one of Boston or Ravens and do so pretty comfortably if they want to get even a winners bracket seed, let alone a decent seed, which gives themselves a chance of not playing one of the best teams at the first major. So look, is it logical, this decision from Thieves, to just stick it out? Say, right, we're going to effectively, it appears they're probably going to give Kenny the major because, I don't know, maybe they want to give him the OpTic series only and just see if that Kenny versus OpTic thing on Thieves still has some magic in the old dog just yet, or whatever you want to say, because it's possible for sure that Kenny turned, I know OpTic fans are even talking about it, that I wouldn't be shocked if Kenny turns up next weekend, drops a 1.3, just like Drazah just did, right? Maybe they're hoping for that, and if that happens, then they'll run with it. Or maybe they have just said, all right, we're going to commit to it to the major. We're going to at least see what the team's capable of on LAN. Then we can make a call after that. But the problem, I think, is that if the squad is mentally compromised, if there's no belief from Scrap or HyDra that this quartet is going to work, then if whatever's happening in the practice room, we talked about it last night on Dope Check, what Slash's perspective was. He joined us as a guest appearance yesterday. It was a great show if you guys want to check it out. But effectively, he was saying, if the practice room's cooked, then it's over. If there's still some belief still left in that team room, then there's a chance. And Shane and Sender are the ones that really know what's going on there. But, Nameless also did his little video here talking about the mistakes being made and the fact that, yeah, Kenny's getting fried, but there is a little bit more to it, possibly, than that. So very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Again, Thieves have to wait all weekends of matches to play OpTic in that finale. And, yeah, that is going to be the talking point of the weekend for sure. So very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.
Wait, we're good at this. We're actually good at this.
Wait, we love defense on this map. We never lose him. I think it's D. Yeah, blue, D. For sure, dude.
Porter's listening to the radio? I mean, I guess, bro.
Yo, this is actually what it was like to watch Babe Ruth, but you just heard it. You didn't even watch it.
Wait,
This is
Yo.
actually. You
Yo.
weren't at the game, bro. This is
What's up?
actually how you watch.
Yo, he
Babe
probably
Ruth,
sounded
man.
insane.
Yeah,
That's
they're
not
like,
a bad call,
another
though.
home run is still for the game.
Dad, what are you saying? I can't get a word in with these fucking morons. God. Bro, you should actually tell them to do the 10-minute delay or dude, make it 15 minutes.